All right, so welcome back to the Call to Create. Here we are in another part of what is going to become Ben's premier contemporary event space, open space. Normally our other set is right now being transformed into a venue for the upcoming BendFilm Fest. So we are in another part of the building today. And as part of that conversation, we're also sitting down today with Erik Jambor. To give you a little background on Erik, he got his BFA in filmmaking, television production, that sort of thing, back in '93. He co-founded the Sidewalk Moving Picture Festival in 1999. He was director of that for 8 years. He also instituted the Birmingham Shout, the first LGBTQ film fest in Alabama. He was the executive director of the Indie Memphis Film Fest in Memphis, Tennessee, and has been the BendFilm Fest programmer since 2016. He's also served on fest juries for Slam Dance, South by Southwest, Atlanta, Nashville, River Run, Ashland, and Biogra-Film Fest in Bologna, Italy. He's the co-founder, way back, was the co-founder of New World Rising, a post-production facility. He's quoted as saying, "Film makes it much easier to get through life." So, without further ado, let me introduce Erik Jambor.
Thank you. You do a lot of research. That's all I had to say.
And that's it. And we're done with the show. All right, good talk. The thing that I am intrigued by, I want to go all the way back to what started you down this path? What sent you down the road of all the way back in the 90s? You were like, I'm gonna go in the direction of film.
Well, I got to go back before the 90s.
Before the 90s.
Go back to the 80s, and I was one of those.
I feel like we should be.
Yeah. Little time travel action.
Wayback Machine.
I'm one of those kids that would shoot Super 8 home movies growing up. So 10, 11, 12 in that age range. My parents had gotten me a Super 8 camera, and I did a lot of just backyard movies. So stop motion. Films where I'd take my Jawa Star Wars action figures, and because the little cloaks kind of covered up their joints, you couldn't, it didn't look silly, it looked great because you could make them run around, it looked like they were really moving. Right. Or just afternoon movies where a friend would come over, we'd think up some concept, and we'd go shoot it in the backyard over a weekend. Right. Nothing grand, but that was sort of, I was going to be someday another, Spielberg or one of those kind of guys, but they were all, that was sort of, I remember Star Wars was super exciting as a thing you would go to as a kid, but by the time Raiders came out, I think I was old enough and there were enough making of documentaries on TV or specials that it was like, you don't just go to movies, you can make them, and so that became a passion and an interest since then.
Okay.
So kind of spirals downhill from there.
I guess depends on how you want to portray that.
Either way.
Downhill.
But formats change, but as the years progressed, I kept making silly, just fun films, and spent a year in Norway. My dad had a sabbatical where he took, I think he had the option of doing a half year at full salary or a year at half salary, and chose the latter. So when I was 12, my family moved to Norway for a year, and it was me and my sister, who's 3 years younger, and my parents, and had never been to Norway, didn't know what it was like, didn't speak the language. Went over there at 12, and it was a cool kind of shock to the system because I was definitely a kid that spent too much time just on computers.
Okay.
And I had an uncle that built me a computer before that was something that people tended to have, and so I learned to program and code back, 1980-ish.
Right.
And going to Norway all of a sudden kind of shifted the focus because you didn't have all those things you have at your bedroom at home, and you have to go outside and do more fun things. But I kept the movie stuff going. It would make films there.
Okay.
And then as high school kind of came into the picture, went to high school, had an internship program, and was able to intern at a place in Birmingham that did all of the Ringling Brothers commercials nationally.
Wow,
So it'd
that's
be like
pretty
Ringling, Disney on Ice, all those sorts of things. And we slowly went, a friend of mine and I both did the internship, and we slowly went insane because we would be responsible for doing the dubbing, the commercial copying for all the TV stations. So we'd get an order that would come in, and we'd have to make like 40 copies of, It's a Small World, Disney on Ice special, where they're all tagged for different cities, and we'd have to sit back there and make all the copies. But you're hearing the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
And so that was sort of a fun, crazy high school time. But the benefit of it was we had full access to all the equipment in the off hours.
Oh, nice.
And so my friend Paul Ferguson and I would sit around and make just the most bizarre high school movies you've probably ever seen.
Right.
But they were all broadcast quality because it was the same gear you'd use to make national TV commercials.
Okay, cool.
And so that sort of kind of kept that interest going.
Right.
And
So, okay, now this is because Star Wars was like the formative movie for me. Was that the one that like sparked the thing for you that set you on that path, or?
Well, I think for me it was that Star Wars showed that movies were something that could be a passion to go see.
Right.
Yeah, I think before they were just cool, but Star Wars was like, I saw it a gazillion times in the theater.
I think I saw it like 14 times or something.
Yeah.
In the theater, like.
And
I just went
you're
over
waiting
and over.
years between the next one, and it took forever.
Yes, and you're just like, oh my God, when's it coming?
Yeah, and your friend would have the 8mm reel, 16-minute version of the film that you could watch at their house, and so that. But it was Raiders of the Lost Ark that was hey, movies are something you can make.
Okay, because of the
behind the scenes shows that would be on so often. It seemed, doable and accessible, I guess. Yeah, I could do that.
So how old were you when you were in Norway? How old were you?
So that was 12 to 13.
Okay.
So I had my 13th birthday on the top of this mountain where, family and friends carried up segments of a big cream cake to the top of the mountain. We assembled this cream cake on the top of the mountain. We ate it.
Right. You kept making films in Norway, and you had access to.
Yeah, I mean, Norway. We shot a lot of things just for fun. I don't think I edited there, but back then it was all splicing. So you would take, your Super 8 splicer, and the 8 in 8mm is because of the 8mm diagonal size of the frame. That's really small. And I remember I had seen, I guess maybe the Star Wars making of videos of how you can make laser blasts, and I guess one of the things you can do is scratch a laser onto the emulsion of the film.
Right.
And so I spent a lot of time, probably damaging my eyes, trying to etch laser blasts into each frame to make them shoot across the frame from the gun to the target. And I think I didn't have a light table. I was using a fluorescent bulb or fluorescent tube, and would wrap the film around the bulb and have an X-Acto knife and try to kind of scratch it out. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, right.
So it was fun. Then in high school we would make these films. You can't scratch anymore into the emulsion, but you're not trying to splice the video, and so you're now learning this linear editing style where every time you're recording one scene onto a tape, and then you lay down the next one. You're putting them in order.
Right.
And then there was this huge advancement many years later for nonlinear editing, where it was like essentially a word processor for film editing, and now you can just stick whatever shot you want anywhere in your film. You don't have to plan ahead and put it in order.
Right.
And so I remember that was a fun thing.
So you've been immersed in this since you were a kid.
Yeah, I was there since the beginning.
I was there
since the beginning of my youth. But so the progression of that then was in high school we made these films. The adults that worked at this production company called Air Mobile Productions in Birmingham, Alabama, the grown-ups, us, our mentors, all upped and moved to Atlanta because there was a big, much more happening production scene in Atlanta. And so all of a sudden, Paul and I, us two high school kids, were the ones there that knew how to run the machinery. So our boss just kind of promoted us to actually doing the other work. And so we had some, we were able to get some decent money as high school kids doing real work. And then when I went off to high school, my friend Paul stayed there, and he amassed a client base. So he became a full-time editor and developed all these client relationships, so that when I got out of film school, he was ready to start up. Hey, let's start up this company. That's New World Rising that you mentioned. That's a good find. That's a rare thing people know. And so we had this company that originally was just doing what was at the time creative offline editorial. I don't think offline even exists anymore. But what that was sort of like a rough draft. So we would basically have the word processor with a dot matrix printer, and we would spend a lot of time putting TV commercials like bank spots and hospital spots. Nice things, putting the commercials in order, and then you would take it to somebody else to do the online, so the finishing. They would do color correction, and they would do the titling. And at some point in there, we realized, well, we have enough of a client base built up that they all say they will use us for the online finishing work if we had the gear. So we got a loan to get this $1 million machine, which at the time was amazing. It was a Quantel Henry. No one else in the Southeast had one. We got one, and it was, at the time, it was amazing. It was nonlinear, D1 uncompressed digital editing. And so you could do the same thing, but an uncompressed video angle. And so it's a very high-end thing we're very excited about, and that was sort of our corner of the market for a long time. Doing the whole shebang, and even going so far as to buying our own Aeroflex camera. It was a very cool, out of college time.
Right. And I mean, all this is right after college.
Yeah. So essentially,
that's pretty awesome.
So instead of getting a job, we just created a job.
It's a pretty kick-ass way to spend your years after college.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been, in retrospect, it would have been probably more beneficial to have done what my other friends did and just go to LA and then, just jump in the industry. But, when you're a big-headed kid out of film school, it's like, well, you already know this, you feel like you know everything. Let's just start our own company. I didn't want to go out there and be a production assistant because I didn't know what I wanted to learn. I just thought we could do our own thing.
Right.
So that was interesting. But
so this was still all in Alabama?
This was Alabama, yep.
And you parlay, when did you go from there, somewhere along the way, when did you meet Robin and all of this? This was actually, that was when you were in Memphis, right? Right.
So my wife Robin, we met at the Indie Memphis Film Festival. So I ran that after I was at BendFilm for a year.
Okay.
And Indie Memphis was, at the time, kind of transitioning from that all-volunteer kind of structure to, they'd gotten money to hire their first executive director.
Okay.
And I had just left BendFilm, and I'd gone back to the South, and I was consulting with the Indie Memphis folks informally about who might be good for that job.
Okay.
And I was trying to think of people to send them to, because I'd already done 9 years of film festivals. Well, that's it's a good phase. I'll go on to something else. But the more I talked to them, the more I realized what could happen in Memphis and what they were interested in were all the things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do in Birmingham or in Bend at the time.
Okay.
And so at some point in those conversations, I had to say, well, I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Right.
And, this sounds really great for the things I'm interested in as well. And as things happened, I got that job. And then my wife, Robin, at the time was a photographer in Memphis, an artist and photographer, but she was who they would contract every year to shoot the festival. And so I was the first person, apparently, that sat down with her and said, well, here are the shots I want you to be sure to get.
Okay.
And I guess that opened the, opened the door on
sparked
what came. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And then, so how long were you with Indie Memphis? You were with them for a long
Memphis,
time, right?
that was a long run. That was I think it was 7 years.
Okay.
And we took it from kind of a local awesome secret to something that had a national reputation. At the time, they were just running Southern films, or that was the focus. And I had broadened that to regional filmmaking. But what we were trying to do was increase sort of the attention by bringing in jurors like Elvis Mitchell came in for, I think, first 2 or 3 years I was there. People of that stature and caliber. Larry Karaszewski, who wrote Man on the Moon and the new Eddie Murphy film. He was on the jury. Craig Brewer did Hustle and Flow. Like a lot of these higher profile people, so they would come in and talk about the festival as they would leave and go back to their own communities. And it's kind of what we did in Sidewalk. But Memphis was easier because Sidewalk in Birmingham itself, if you've never been to the South, if you're a filmmaker in LA and you think of Alabama and Birmingham, you just think of civil rights and the 60s, and it's not very positive.
Right.
You might, at the time, also have thought of American Idol, and at the time we had 2 or 3 American Idol winners from Birmingham. Okay. So that's, hooray.
I didn't know that Birmingham was such a source of
a
American
mecca of
Idol
American
success.
But Memphis has, of course, a lot of civil rights negative things, of course, but beyond that, there's Elvis, you got rock and roll, the blues, barbecue, there's all these other things that people know and love.
Right.
And so when you're reaching out to people, they either have always wanted to come and visit and go to Graceland, or they're just huge fans of barbecue or whatever. So it was easier to, invite different people to come in.
Right. An easier sell than Birmingham.
Yeah, it felt like that.
Okay.
Certainly there's just cool music stuff that we could always pull into.
And so in the middle of all this, were you still making films, or had you kind of transitioned from making films to
that's
running
a good
fests?
Good question. So that story, if I could back up a little bit.
Yeah.
While at this post-production company, I'm basically editing all the time.
Right.
So however many years, we did well. We win Best of Show at the local Addies, and we would producing our own things that would win awards, and feeling great about it. But at some point in there, I realized I didn't go to film school to make commercials, though these are good. I'm happy with the work. We're not doing car commercials, maybe one car commercial, but it was mainly hospital spots and banks. So I went to film school to make movies. I want to make a movie.
I mean, I would imagine that was your passion from the get-go.
Right. So 96 is be 3 years after graduation. Started to pull these pieces together, and I had gone to some festivals post film school. Specifically, if I get my timeline right, I had done some Sundance Channel bumpers for Hunter Films, which is Alan Hunter and his brother Hugh. Alan was on MTV in the beginning days, and he's from Birmingham, and he and his brother Hugh had a production company, and they were one of our clients. We cut a lot of stuff for them, and they were doing Blockbuster Video, some other great clients, but Sundance Channel was one of them. And so we did some really cool bumpers, and I think maybe that was the reason I kind of went to Sundance early on and got to see some really amazing films. In the process, I'm trying to get my film done, and my film ended up, what I realized was the thing to do was to make it super short and make it on 35 millimeter film, because at the time, that was a format people projected movies in. You go to the theater, you'd see a film projected.
Right.
So I felt, okay, if I get a film into a film festival, I can make it short. If it's on 35, they'll put it in front of a 35 millimeter feature, which would be the better ones.
I see. So
instead of a video feature.
So like the format was.
I thought that would be
using that to position.
Yeah, right. So I was trying to be smart about it.
Right.
And so I made a movie that was 6 minutes and 40 seconds long. I got Alan Hunter to star in it with some college friends, and it was sort of a dinner party gone awry. A couple scenes, shot on 35. Edited on Avid. We did a negative matchback and cut the negative. And so I made 3 prints, about this big.
Right.
And the plan worked, and it premiered at the Seattle Film Festival in '96. And it was the year of Train Spotting and Steve Soderbergh's Schizopolis. Mm-hmm. And I remember after it premiered, the director of the festival was there, and I was thanking him, and he's like, "Oh, what are you going to see next?" And I was going to sprint across the campus and go see I think Bertolucci's Under a Sheltering Sky. And
Okay.
he's like, no, just stay here and watch this next movie. And it was Train Spotting, which is an amazing film, but it's even more mind-blowing if you have no idea what you're walking into. And I didn't know
Right,
I had never seen a Danny Boyle film. I didn't know about the toilet that he'd fallen into. I didn't know anything about the movie. And just from go, I was floored. And that experience, and then going to the Slamdance Film Festival, which is sort of an offshoot of in Park City, of people that didn't get into Sundance and started their own festival, which still is going on. It's where people like Christopher Nolan and the Russo brothers from the Avengers movies, they all got their start at Slamdance.
Okay.
With their first features. And going there and seeing films that similarly would blow my socks off, I was like, I'm more interested in the films other people are making than the films that I was making.
Okay.
And eventually my friends in Birmingham got tired of me just talking about these films. And we're like, well, why don't we just do our own festival? Because some of these, you'd go to these festivals and it's just, well, this is just a conference room with a projector and some temporary seats set. It doesn't seem very complicated. We could do that.
Right.
So we modeled Sidewalk after those sorts of festivals mixed with a music festival. There was one called City Stages in Birmingham where they'd shut off all the downtown streets, gate it all off, and have stages with live music on all these major intersections. And we thought, well, we'll do a film festival like that because we don't know any better. We'll just gate off this couple of blocks in downtown Birmingham, and we'll use these venues, and you'll go inside to see movies, and outside will be tents and music and vendors and stuff. And that was
just throw it together.
Yeah.
It should be easy, right? How hard can that be?
So we spent forever planning it, and then I think like 2 months before it was supposed to happen, someone suggested we get with an event producer, and Carrie Lane is her name, and she came in and said, "You guys are crazy. You're trying to do this when?" And she was able to pull off the logistics necessary to make it happen. We actually did it first year, but we sort of learned all these things going along, like, oh, you don't need to close off the streets because there's no traffic in downtown Birmingham then on the weekends, and it might be nice to have any cars go by that were there, and no one was coming down for the outdoor activities. They all wanted to see the movies, so it sort of grew from there. So that's how I transitioned from filmmaking into film showing or curating. And unfortunately, that was the last film I made, or the most recent film I made. It was premiered in '96.
Oh wow, okay.
And so I think I can no longer be a filmmaker. If I'd written a novel, I could probably still be a novelist at that. You have a lot of time in between. But I think if your last film was '96 and it was not even 7 minutes, I might have to do another one to keep on the filmmaker credit.
Does that still resonate with you? Do you miss that? Do you ever think like, I'd love to make another film, or are you?
I think every now and then. I think if I came up with the right thing. But the way these festival cycles go, you get inspired by the festival and the people you meet, and then you're ready to do something, but then you all of a sudden start getting pulled into the next year's festival planning.
Right.
And so I've never been able to separate that out enough to really get something going. Right. But my wife Robin's very good about trying to encourage that, and she's made a couple experimental shorts in the meantime, and we've talked about collaborating on something. I just need to get focused on returning to that. Because certainly, you meet all these friends you want to collaborate with in some way.
Sure.
And it'd be fun to do. But the festival does become all consuming when you've got 1,400 films to watch.
Yeah. And so you were in Memphis, you met Robin, I think it was a few years later, you guys got married. Somewhere along the way, then kids come along. Are you, like, at any point in time, are you thinking, oh my God, is this the industry I want to be in? Is this the path that is going to help my family? Like, how did all that fit together for you? Or were you all in from, it sounds like you have been fully committed to this world from day one, and you wouldn't leave it for anything.
Well, let's say I'm not a very good planner. And one never knows. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, the world can be whatever you want it to be, and you can do anything. So often when opportunities are out there, you're like, well, what if I can't commit to this because something else might come up, and it becomes hard to sort of decide. Like,
Right.
how do you decide when all opportunities are out there?
Right.
And we have not really figured out the answer to that, and that's something, always try to figure out. I need to get the right career coach or life coach or something.
When you find that right person, let me know.
I will.
Please pass that on.
I will, because I think, there are creative things that I'm interested in and would like to do, but I've not figured out that right balance between work and life, especially like right now. For us, we're sort of on that festival swing up where we're very close to the 16th year of the BendFilm Festival. So any spare time, it's like one more piece of the puzzle that's got to be knocked out.
Right,
one more
right.
email or one more spreadsheet piece. But once that's passed, there is a window that'd be nice to fit in some time for some other things.
And do you and Robin collaborate in creative projects, or do you move in separate circles? I mean, I know she is an artist and she does art installations, and sounds like she does some pretty amazing stuff in her field.
She does cool stuff. You should have her on.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to get her on.
She's tough to get.
And she's terrified to get in front of the camera. I think more so than you were. So.
A camera? What?
Oh my God.
No, we've done more music stuff together.
Okay.
And I think we will collaborate on film things. I think I have a hard time getting into things because I'm not good about that time management. So I always feel like I'm behind on the other thing I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay.
So even if I'm by myself, I feel like, I can't just start working on that song now because I should just get a head start on the movies I should be watching.
Right.
Or catch up on that movie I didn't get to see from earlier. There's always something I'm feeling I should have already been doing that I'm behind on.
Right.
It's a mindset thing that I need to adjust. It's not correct. There's one can make those spaces.
Right.
If you do it right, I'm not very good at it. And I need to be able to find a better way to make that space to make my own creative things, because that's when I'm I think most fulfilled or happiest is when things are being created.
And to you, when you're working with a film fest, does that feed that creative urge? Like, does that push that button for you, or do you feel like creativity, like actually creating something like you're talking about, would be a different project?
Yeah, it's different sorts of creativity, and
Right.
so it fills one of those buckets in a way.
Right.
Or parts of the festival does, because certainly the kind of the curation aspect, where you're trying to find these films and putting them together in a certain way, that's very exciting. Or finding a filmmaker that you can be excited about that maybe nobody else has really honored or recognized in a certain way. That's really cool. Or finding new ways to maybe help them to connect, because I try to ideally I'd like the festival to be more of a connection point than just people coming to something.
Okay. Connections between filmmakers,
right, and audience members,
producers. So the audience as well,
right.
Not just on the film.
And we often get
side.
stuck with logistics.
Right.
And right now would be a great time to be thinking about, how else can we do those things?
Right.
Right now it's more of like a race to the spreadsheet to get everything filled in.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, but it's something that I think I'm certainly always trying to figure out, well, what can we do that can help facilitate that?
Right.
It's the same thing, like a lot of times you might go to a party, and it's like, okay, well, this is just another party where there's music, and there's some food over here, and there's some drinks over there, and it's just people talking,
right.
And that's it. And I don't know what the solution is, but I like it when there are ways to facilitate conversation. And it should be more than just a sticker on your forehead that has a country name or a world leader that you have to try to get the other person to guess.
Right.
Is that The Office?
Yeah.
They did on The Office. Though that could certainly be funny.
Because the thing I've noticed with you as programmer is, like, it seems that it's not just about selecting good movies, it's also about selecting movies which flow together or are complementary, or it seems that you're looking at more than just, is it a good film or not? There's there's a sort of jigsaw aspect of like fitting the pieces together. Even though they're different shapes, they kind of come together in certain ways.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks.
Is that?
Yeah. I think that is an intentional thing.
Okay.
Like you can't just take the top scoring films from your screening committee in each category and run those. You know, you're using this like the raw scores and comments from the committee to narrow down the selection, and then deciding what you run sometimes is based on something else that runs, especially with the short film programs. So we had some great people working as associate programmers, and I loved what they were recommending. And as I started looking at other things, I was like, well, what if we put this one with this one, and then this one doesn't fit anymore, and then now this block becomes about something else. I don't go so far as to tell you what that block is. I should maybe thematically tell you, but we have one block that's all it's all sort of growing up. It's women directors, all about growing up at different stages of being a woman. And it's like, well, this is really solid. But that also meant that's one block that this cool sports short about a high school football player didn't fit in, and it doesn't fit in the other block anymore because the other one became more about, relationships and different. So it's weird because sometimes favorite films just get out because of these connections and the flow points that we were kind of talking about. And same with the features. Like sometimes, the features sometimes link from one to another. There's a really nice through line of music documentaries and music films this year. And there's on the BendFilm schedule, you can click the music button and see all these films that are connected, whether it's I Want My MTV about how MTV came together, or Boom, a film about the Sonics, about the Northwest band in the early 60s. That was super influential, but most people don't know who they are. To Talking Heads Stop Making Sense. Like we have all these different things that if you might hate movies and you might hate film festivals, or you might hate the idea of going into a dark room for 2 hours when you could be, out enjoying the outdoors in Bend, Oregon. Right. But you might be a huge music fan. Right. And so part of what I try to do is have these access points for people like that. Like it's not just about, you don't have to be an indie film fan to come to a festival like BendFilm or Sidewalk or Indie Memphis. You need to be a person passionate about life, and then just look at what we're showing. We may have a film about your favorite thing. It's in there somewhere, and so I like to encourage people to be curious, look at that program and see what we're showing, really for any festival, and dig through. Everything's in there because it's great. And so your trick is just seeing, well, what are the hooks for you, and then can we encourage you to see something you might not normally have wanted to check out, and then hopefully you get inspired and changes your life and become a new person.
So I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, but so how old are your kids now? You have two kids?
Two. One will turn 7 later this month, and one turns 2 at the end of the year.
When you guys started having kids, I assume you were in Memphis, you were doing the Indie Memphis Film Festival, yeah? Mm-hmm. She was an artist, photographer. Was there ever this thought of like, can we continue to live this life that we're living and have kids and make it all work? Or were you guys both, you're like, yeah, like we're in this and we're loving it and this is the direction we're going? Because I think I just remember when we had kids, and at first just feeling completely at sea with like, okay, can I do this? Am I, are we doing it right? How is this gonna work? Was there any of that for you guys, or were you just, you knew your path and you were gonna keep going?
Well, I think yeah, we were probably, at sea too, like you've never had kids before. Of course. Like I was never one that was good with other people's kids personally. Right. Like I don't want to, hello little person. I don't want to break you. But with your own kids, it becomes a different thing. In the same way with pets probably too, now that I come to think of it.
Big similarities.
So if it's my own slobbering dog, it's okay. If it's somebody else's, just don't jump on me. And I think we both like the idea of having some kind of creative life that is inspiring to them, even if they don't know it.
Right.
So we try to have music nights at the house where we're playing and people are coming over. At least in Memphis, we'd do that a lot, where friends would come over that.
My God, I would imagine
would play and sing, and
Yeah.
we'd have we did some band appearances, and try to have that setting. And our older daughter loves to sing, and she sometimes wants to learn piano or drums or guitar or whatever. So she's gonna she's now taking music lessons and is over at the Cascade School of Music doing voice over there. And so hopefully she'll keep all that going. But I think it does become a challenge to keep those things going all the time. It was easier in Memphis because we did have those regular folks that could get going.
Right.
And Robin's very good about keeping those people engaged, whereas I just kind of get often overwhelmed that I'm busy with the work stuff, and all of a sudden it's Friday, and if she hadn't invited somebody over, we wouldn't necessarily have a music night.
Right.
Because it does get hard. If you are crazily busy working, and then trying to do dinner and get the kids to bed, and then like, well, I'm glad we got that done, but now I'm tired. I'm going to zone out, watch a movie, and go to bed.
Right.
But that's not very creative or inspiring.
Right.
But that's sometimes how it is.
And you think it seemed it was mostly she took the lead on that, making that happen when to bring people over and
definitely inviting. I don't invite people over. I'm just not very good at thinking of it ahead of time, or thinking that that's a better option than just being. I have more antisocial tendencies.
Okay.
But I always feel great after we do it. Like it's always
Right.
a thrill.
Yeah.
And since I don't really play in public, that becomes the performance outlet, is living room concerts.
So for you, there's also that creative side of your life as well, music.
Yeah, there is music.
didn't know
The
about
music thing is interesting because it goes back to high school, and the realization that had I bought a decent guitar back in high school, it'd be worth a lot of money now. But instead, I bought like some Japanese metal electric, for like speed metal, and I don't know why, because me and all my friends were all into like Beatles and REM and like guitars that would have made sense if I'd bought a Fender or a Gibson or something. But I just got.
So now you're kicking yourself. You're like, why didn't I buy something sweet?
If I got an American-made Fender, it would have been great. But no, but the guitar is fine. I still have my high school guitar. But we were never that necessarily good, but we were a bunch of friends that all liked music better than we could play, and so we couldn't play the music, and so we would write our own songs. But then the songs we would write weren't really songs we could play live, so we ended up being a studio-only band. But not like the Beatles, where you're really awesome and then you retire from touring. We were just like, the guy's not good enough to play, so we would do it on the 4-track, where you keep punching in your solo a bunch of times until you got it right. But we did a number of albums, and throughout the years, every now and then, someone from that same group would say, hey, I have a new song, do you want to have a listen, maybe add some parts to it? And we still sort of do that.
Right.
And so I still like that idea. And someday we'll record some more songs.
Right.
In the meantime, I'm just trying to learn the instrument better, and get better about just playing covers that are fun to play.
Right. And so with your kids, it sounds like music and voice is kind of a thing, but do you urge that? Do you kind of push for creative directions for your kids, or do you let them find their way? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think both Rob and I we try to encourage it, but they're their own people, right?
Yeah.
And so Simone loved to do climbing at the climbing gym in Memphis. And so okay, it's awesome. When we get to Bend, this will be great, because there are great climbing gyms here too, and we'll keep that going. And Robin took her to the first time, and she was just goofing off and bored, didn't want to go do it again.
Right.
And then so it's hard to encourage them if they don't want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So she loves to draw and do the art things and dance, and so I think it's just sort of, for me, it's like, what opportunities can we give the kids to explore? and try out. And maybe you reintroduce things at different times to see if maybe again they might like it.
Yes.
But you can't, at least at this age, you can't force it too much.
Right.
But I do know, like I remember my guitar lessons, and they were horrible, like when they started. And it's Mel Bay guitar books that are like so uninspiring. I don't know why they even make them.
It's almost like, so I took those same lessons as a kid, and it's almost like they're trying their damnedest to get you to not want to play guitar. Because it is so painful.
And some of it I think must be because of the public domain-ness of those songs.
Sure,
like, oh, here's Old MacDonald or Old Blue River or whatever. And it's a whole different thing if even if you don't know the songs you want to play, if you have a guitar teacher or a music teacher that can say like, have you ever heard this song? Right.
Somebody that gets you excited about cool music.
Yeah, because if you get a riff like, Day Tripper's not hard and it's fun, and if you've never heard the song before, it's really empowering to learn it, right? Right. But if you're trying to learn, Old Man River, and you're just, it's probably the same chords for a lot of these songs.
Sure, yeah.
But it's just a different thing.
But it's a way less exciting assemblage of them when you're playing like Old Man River.
And Memphis has like, a few outlets for the School of Rock. And I'm like, that's where I would want to go if I was a kid.
Right.
And so I dream of enrolling Simone, and then she can be a power rocker.
There you go. So what do you think is next, like, for you, for your family? Do you have a plan, or are you kind of riding the ride as it comes to you? Like, what's the?
Yeah, we have no plan.
Okay.
We need a plan.
Okay.
Because one could keep doing what you're doing forever, or one could try to figure out where do you want to go and how do you want to get there. And there are lots of opportunities, and I think when you're planning, it's anything. It's kind of like, well, who should we invite to the festival this year? Let's make a list. It could be anybody,
Right.
Let's get Costner and Harrison Ford together and have them talk about stuff. That'd be cool. It's like, but that's impossible.
Right.
But same thing, like, well, what should we do? Well, let's move to southern France and live there. That'd be cool. Or, well, Florence, Italy would be cool too. Or Norway, I like Norway. So like you can easily like start making forever lists, but how do you decide?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do when you get there?
Right.
A bakery would be cool, but I don't know how to bake bread.
Aside from the fact that you can't bake.
Yeah, or be cool to have a cool little bookstore in a small, like an American bookstore in a small French seaside town would be cool, but can't say that will sustain any revenue necessarily, but it could be cool. And
are any of those, not necessarily bookstores in the south of France, but are there any things that you guys are tossing around or thinking about or like seriously giving consideration to, like, maybe we're going to go in this direction next, or we're going to stay on the path we're on now and see where it goes?
Right now it's just trying to decide, well, what do we do after BendFilm?
Right.
We tend to come in every summer and then leave after the festival. This year, since our oldest is in first grade, there's a little bit of like, well, we'll at least finish out the first half of the school year.
Okay.
So if we do go back, the transition would be with the first of the year. Or if we stayed, she could then complete first grade here.
Right.
But then it's the next summer, so then
you're into the next fest.
And then it's the next fest, and then same thing. Like, do you then stay for the first half of second grade?
Right.
Or do you do a whole so it keeps going.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out that next dream step, and so maybe it'll be going someplace cool. But I think it is partly the what do you want to do, what do you want to be with the rest of your life decision to figure out. Like, is that programming? Is it trying to make a movie again? Is it trying to figure out how to parlay all those things together into something new? Mm-hmm. I don't know. We're open to explore, and that's where that coach will come in handy.
Right. Yes. When you find the right one, let me know for sure. Well, so where, like, as we wrap things up, where can people find you, or where would you like people to go to see what you're up to with social media or online or anything like that? Is there?
That's, I am not on social media like one should maybe be.
Okay.
You can maybe catch me on Facebook, but my handle tends to be Gamalost, Gamalost, which means old cheese. It's a Norwegian cheese that you don't want to try. But it was the name of the film I did in '96.
Okay.
So I use that for most things. So on Twitter, Gamalost is me on Twitter. At the moment, it's just, I retweet things occasionally, or
Right.
or post about some new Beatles re-release I'm excited about.
Right.
I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
don't actively post things.
Okay.
I will like things other people post on Facebook, so you can follow my likes.
All right.
Over there.
All right.
But yeah, look for me online, or just hit up the BendFilm website at benfilm.org, and you can track me down there.
Cool.
Yep.
Any last thing? Anything that's resonating in your heart that you want to share with the world and get out there and?
No, I do. One concept I do like is the idea of striving for failure, where you need to try to do things that could be huge or could be failures.
Okay.
And so most of those big jumps that I took were sort of in those situations of like, I'm going to leave my job editing, making lots of money, and I'm going to just be a film festival director, and we're going to do this festival in Alabama no one's ever tried to do before in that style.
Right.
And luckily it worked. Yep.
Has that kind of been a driving philosophy for you, like an actual overt approach to life of like, I'm going to go after this thing. Even if it crashes and burns, I'm going to go after it just because it's big and exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I like. I like the concept, and I've certainly followed that for a lot of key decisions in my life, but I haven't, it's not on the wall.
You don't have a motivational poster.
Right, it says strive to fail.
Strive to fail.
Because, that's kind of, can be depressing too. It's like, I don't want to fail.
Right.
But I think with any artistic endeavor, if you're afraid of the failure, which I and most of us probably are, you're not going to do that thing. And people have told me this too, in terms of why I don't do things that I should do. But like, yeah, I could write a song and go perform it at open mic night someplace. It's probably going to be horrible, and people are going to hate it.
Right.
Or they might like it, or they might be fine with it. But regardless, I'm not going to know unless I do it. It's like maybe I would have been a great concert violinist, but I never even tried. Right. So I think you have to try different things, cross your fingers, and give it all you got. And if you don't succeed, try again.
Right.
Unless
so would you say that somewhere along the way, it sounds like that became your actual like chosen philosophy of like, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to do this thing, whether it was the LGBTQ Film Fest in Alabama or taking Indie Memphis in a bigger direction. It sounds like you, at some point, started making conscious decisions of like, we're going to go big.
Yeah, I think certainly making those doing big things. It does feel like maybe less of that recently. So maybe that's a good reminder.
Right.
I should do something big that might be terrible.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that takes us to the end.
I think that's
Thanks,
good
man.
with me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate sitting down with me and having a talk.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers to you.